What up, homie?
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. Magical Thursday. I had a thought that I wanted to share with you on the spam situation. I removed probably 100 email addresses from the dev list that were either bouncing or had like the hallmarks of I am a spam email address, meaning that they're largely random gibberish letters and numbers at gmail.com. So mostly those were spam slash bouncing, I should say. But then the other thought I had, because it was funny, some of the looking through, some of the spam messages we got were like these weird like sleepers. Like the person like the spam message came from an account that joined like 6 months ago. So they joined and then they waited and then they spammed. So I thought that was funny. Um, we could change posting permission, and the thing is like the posting permissions for new people that have joined have been changed. So now if like, Xbox12345 at gmail.com joins, um, they won't be allowed to post. Their first post will be moderated, so we can determine that they are or not. But I mean, there's a lot of those email addresses that have never posted. So, what we could do is change posting permissions for everyone who is not known, right? Obviously, we know who you are. We know who Mike Brown is. We know who Sam is. We know who VBATS is. We know who, like, there's a lot of people that are known, that are trusted, that are not spams. That we could set posting permissions and then on the existing addresses, and that would prevent the spam from anybody else who has a sleeper account. What do you think?
For right now, I think we're looking pretty good because I went through there and just like whacked the bejesus out of it.
Yeah.
Cleaned
Yeah,
everything up.
I did too yesterday or last week when we were on the call, and then I got pretty well through, like I said, through like the pruning of the list, and I started to look at like, okay, what else could we do here to
Because are
lock
you
this up?
looking at email addresses or were you actually going back through the actual messages themselves?
I was doing both. I was like,
Okay.
okay, here's a message that was spam that didn't get caught. So I'm going to obviously clean that up and report it as spam, but I'm also going to take that email address and go block it from our members list. And then I was going through the members list.
So
So
the
yeah.
thing I was doing was when I see new spam messages now, I'm taking
Hmm.
those and putting them on the banned user list.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that kind of cuts everything off. And if someone is a member that we've never heard of, never gotten anything from, but they just want to subscribe to the group and see our emails, I don't have a problem with that.
Well, yeah,
Um,
yeah. No problem there. The issue is that some of those accounts may have either been, taken over. And so now they have the permission now to post, even though because they subscribed at a time that the permissions were posted more openly, if
yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah.
it's if they're there doing that, I feel like that's a really long play that we don't have a lot of. Maybe
Okay.
one or two are doing that. We were just getting so many from the same people over and over and over again. I
Yeah.
feel like now that we've cut that off, we're in a really good place on at least the dev list. I haven't had a chance to go look at the TOB list, and I don't think I'm on that one right now.
TOB, hold on, let me get it. Oh, I know how to go here. I think
Because
TOB is
there's
pretty.
still some over there. Not as much, but there's still some over there.
Groups. Where is groups?
I'll just
Oh
like
man.
I'll drop you a link, make it easy for you. There you go.
Thank you. I appreciate that because the UI is terrible. I mean, TOB looks, oh, there's this guy or person.
Oh,
Uh,
Tony, Daisy, Rommel at CrowdSpring. Oh, Ahmed, Fiona.
okay.
So yeah, I've got a bunch of them that I had flagged a while back that haven't been picked up yet. Sure there are
hmm
others.
hmm Yeah, I was working on the dev list last week because it looks more,
Yeah,
but
the
yeah,
dev
yeah,
was
I
much
see.
more visible.
Yeah. All right.
But if you want to throw me on the TOB list, I'll take care of it over there too.
Well, I'm always happy to have more people fighting spam.
More the merrier.
It's like a spam superhero.
While that's going on, let's see, we got a meeting to run here. How's everybody else doing today? Oh, just that good, huh?
Mhm.
Hey, at least I got a thumbs up there. Rob, since you're here, I deferred this last week, but let me bring this one up to the top of the list that we had kind of deferred, which was the other media type question. So we're looking at two that you're asking about was the Euro FS and the Squash FS and that PR. I can also share screen so we're all look at the same thing. And I'm hoping you got a chance to chat about this today. And did I get the right one? I think I did.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, we had gone back and forth on this a whole bunch. I kind of think my biggest concern looking at all of this is you're trying to say, hey, if we add this in, then it's now a new media type that runtimes would need to start supporting. Is that kind of the direction you're looking at going here?
That is correct. I mean, so let's actually look at the motivation of this, right? So right now the entire OCI image universe is tied to the tar.gz, whatever tar.gz formats, right? Um, and if you look at Alexa's write-up and all that, so it tells you why we may want to move away from it. Okay. So if you have bought into that argument, assuming that you have bought into that argument, then the next argument and the next question is move to what is the better way to do it? And there are two candidates here, which is EuroFS and SquashFS. And the way so there is this EuroFS patch that has landed in Containerd, and what it does is it tries to sort of mutate tar.gz into EuroFS and cache it and all that stuff. So, but we are still tied to tar.gz. So if you were to produce these layers right at the build time and push it in, then you download them, mount them, and run them. So and there are full file systems, and of course we tested that it's all overlay compatible and all of that stuff. Um, so if that is the case, then that leads to now if you're bought into that argument, then the next question to ask is what happens to the rest of the ecosystem? So we are able to produce images. How do you consume them? So if it is official, then the ecosystem consumes them because it's official. Otherwise, you will have to start talking to everyone and saying that, hey, there is this special thing that you need to support. So that's, I think, the train of thought.
So the train of thought I've got is what you've added here is said, hey, we've got this specs.go v1 media type, and you've listed a couple of entries in here. They're not OCI specific. They're just, here are the generic media types we're looking at. But if I go and look at the spec and look at like the manifest for layers, we've got a thing in there that says, hey, if you got the config, you need to do this stuff. This is what it means in here. And then somewhere in here, yeah, implementation should support the following media types. And so we say you should support this and that you must support these. Nothing in what you've done changes any of the actual support requirements that implementations should, may support a new media type.
Yeah, that list will get added to the should, I would say, if you make that a stronger requirement.
Yeah, and so that's kind of my first thing is what we've done here doesn't do anything to the spec.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I mean, all that is this is a day 10 argument, right? That we can come and fix this PR quickly. That's not the. I think the day 0 or the day 1 argument is the community interested in taking this on? First of all, they have to buy into all these arguments. Is the community ready to take this change on? Then we can make that change. So I think that's how to approach this.
Yeah, for me, I can't even get to that point of discussing should we, because I'm looking at what we're recommending to do and it's just, this isn't it. This isn't what you're asking. You're saying one thing, doing something completely different, and then saying, let's have a discussion over here. And I'm just saying, wait a minute. If we're going to have the discussion, let's make the change you want to make and then discuss what we want to do there. And I don't think this is it.
Fair. Yeah.
I kind of want to chime in a bit too, because I know we've been looking a lot at, how do we improve running performance? How do we improve like polling performance? And we've played around with a lot of, AeroFS. Hey, let's send things raw, like uncompressed. Let's practice with, using Z standard versus gzip, like tried a lot of different stuff. And it kind of seems as though none of these things are ever always better than the other. And so it's not like adding this now is sort of like the next best thing. It's not always better than, tar-gz. It kind of becomes yet another option. And so I guess my fear with that is how many, if we do this, does that sort of open the floodgates of, well, now you should support these other 10 as well, because why would you support AOFS and not some other standard? Because none of these are ever always best.
Okay, fair point. And I think the motivation for this particular change is, yes, tar.gz has its own issues. Okay, go ahead and read that commentary. The other issue that we are trying to solve is with the large image problem. So if you have really large images, then you have two steps, right? You want to download them, that this thing will not solve. The other one is going and unpacking them. So you don't have any unpacks when you do your FS or squash FS. So that's the problem that it tries to solve. And that is why, and I think that is the motivation for this change. And if there are other image formats that you're proposing, then also state the motivation for it, and then maybe we can pull that in. So I think that's my answer to this.
Saeed, am I remembering right that last week it was you that was chatting about some of the out of order parallel uploads and whatnot?
That's right, yes.
So I think this kind of ties into some of the things you're looking into as well.
So
Yes,
we are, yeah, sorry. Yeah, so we are, we already have range-based queries and things like that, right? So I don't know if we already have that mechanism. So maybe we sort of piggyback on that for doing this parallel downloads and things like that. So that is a coordination that will happen at the client end. But the registry doesn't have to do anything special.
the problem was not the downloads, it's the uploads.
Okay. And we don't have range-based uploads. Is that?
That's exactly right, yeah. So uploads are always sequential because of the way the hash algorithm works. You need to have previous chunk of data to calculate the SHA correctly. Like it has to go serially through the whole data.
Yeah, so we had a bunch going on this last week, but we'd at least saved a little bit of discussion on yours, Ram, for this week. But I figured if you hadn't had a chance, you might want to go check out some of that discussion, see if there's anything over there you want to chime in on, because I feel like that's got a lot of overlap with what you're thinking of.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can reach out to Rajkumar offline as well.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. So I think where Jeff was going with that one, though, of saying, hey, we should really look at, is this going to solve the problem and whatnot? I think that's where I want to get to, is have that discussion. I just want to have that discussion on a PR that's actually making the change that we really want to make. So that's where I'm throwing up my hand saying, wait a minute.
I'll fix this PR, Brandon.
I see Sajay saying he's interested from the Azure side. So I think there are a lot of people who want to solve this problem in some way. It's a challenge. All right. That was one. Sorry to ambush you with that, Ron, but I was figured since I had thrown the issue and we were kind of going back and forth, I didn't feel like we were really connecting on what we were trying to say to each other. Next one that popped up, I've been the only one to chime in on, so I just want to make sure that I wasn't completely off track, but someone was saying that our annotation for licenses, let's see, do we have that in? He did not link it, so I'll just go ahead and open it up real quick. Our license annotation has some text in there that just says, hey, it should be for the software that is licensed in this image. And they took it to mean that it should be everything inside of the image. If you have a apt-get install and you pull in a bunch of packages, you need to go through and recursively find out the license for every one of the applications you've installed inside that image, plus whatever you're installing on top of that, and run it. And their comment was, it doesn't seem like anybody's using it that way. And I kind of commented back and said, I don't think anybody should be using it that way necessarily. It's a little bit up to individuals to choose, but I feel like most images are built with a Docker file inside of a repo, and this license is just kind of capturing what the repo tends to have in most use cases, and not all the other stuff that's embedded in there. And if they really need to get recursive, then I feel like some of the SBOM generating tools fit that use case a lot better than this annotation. Am I aligning with other people, or am I completely off the mark there? Stunned silence. Guessing, has anybody else even had a chance to look at this one? All right, I'm going to take that one as no opinion, but I figured I would at least raise it up since I was the only one kind of chiming in there.
Yeah, this one is a tricky one, Brandon. This is,
Yeah, their comment was, hey, this clearly states it needs to be for all contained software. And when you look at it, it's just the phrasing in there is licenses under which the contained software is distributed. Well, doesn't say all, doesn't say the, it just says which contained software is distributed. So I can see people reading it different ways, but I feel like we also kind of typically follow and document how people are actually using things. And I don't think people are actually going through and recursively figuring out the license of every component inside of an image. They're just documenting what thing they install on top of everything else. That's assuming they use an annotation at all, which that's really a stretch too.
use
I'm
an
trying to get,
SBOM, use an SBOM, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, if
That's
they're
just
really trying
the
to do
fact.
that, there are tools that'll go through and scan the image and generate it. I feel like that's going to be a lot more accurate and a lot more in depth if that's what they're really trying to do.
Yes, this is. Okay, defer the battle.
Yeah. All right. Just kind of wanted to raise that one up since that kind of came up this week. Otherwise, Tianon is not here. He was the one that was going back and forth with me a whole bunch on this, but we've been chatting over in the group about whether we want a reference spec, and I feel like we kind of got toward the end where folks were saying, hey, let's just throw this over in the distribution spec of having some little, maybe a file or a couple lines. Our spec only has one big file, and so just be another paragraph or section in there. It says, here's how you parse a reference. And my fear with that is if we put it in the distribution spec, that now we're saying that a reference can only reference something in a registry. And there are use cases out there where it would be nice to reference something in like an OCI layout or to. Another thought I was having is if we ever had a distribution v2 to be able to distinguish between which of the distribution specs we're talking to. So I'm worried that we're going to handicap ourselves to make a reference only useful for one spec and not something that could potentially be more abstract in the future. Doesn't mean that I'm trying to do that on day one, but I'm trying to keep the option open in case we want to go that direction in the future. We've had a bunch of back and forth on this one, but since Tinon's not here, I don't think there's a whole lot for this one. Are there other topics, or if folks want to chat about this, feel free. But are there other topics people want to chat about today?
I have a bit of housekeeping, which is
Let's
that
do
if
some housekeeping.
if anybody wants to participate in the talk selection or just sort of the curatorial effort around the container plumbing days, we closed the CFP on, let's see, the 14th was like Wednesday. No, sorry, I don't know what day. Monday. So we are going to be getting ducks in a row to review those. So if you would like to help review, I know Sam and Mike and Brandon and some others have raised their hands. So you'll get an email from the events team soon about session eyes and looking at those. But anybody else, the more the merrier. Shouldn't take you too long.
I'm very active in session eyes lately, so more than happy to go through.
Yay.
All right, rest of you folks have been quiet. Sasha, you been all right lately? That's just, go ahead. The quiet thumbs up of I'm just getting by.
But I'm just curious about the concurrent uploads work at this point. I think there's some interest. So maybe is there an issue we are tracking, or is it more like just a discussion at this point?
We had a handful of discussions there. Otherwise, I think from last week, if you pull that one up, Saeed kind of went through
Yeah.
a little drawing and said, hey, let's look at doing it this way where you could maybe have a blob of blobs and
Yeah.
yeah, I'm kind of curious in that scenario how much. I think the thing I would want to see is how many use cases are there where you would have a multiple blobs inside of a single image manifest that themselves have multiple child blobs. They're like index. If this is a scenario where 99% of the use cases of this is going to be one large LLM model that just needs to be chunked up, maybe it makes sense to make a new media type that is LLM.chunked. and that becomes your layer media type. And then when you see that, you know you need to reassemble this stuff at the client side.
Yeah, we probably still need an API that can, or some agreement, right? Like how this needs to happen. I don't know whether changing clients would be easy, but at least if we have an issue, we can get implementers to look at it and then get the discussion going. Because I think the large language model upload is like the main use case, but uh, might be other things that we're not seeing.
And with those, Saeed, I know you were originally pushing that. Are those, shucks, lost my train of thought. Never mind.
So one of the things, I mean, this is again like AI related, but just the libraries for um, enabling these AI models are also themselves massive, like 25 gigs or something like that. So it's not just the LLM models themselves, but there's like the surrounding ecosystem. They apparently love huge files for some reason.
So
Yes.
the yeah,
I was going to make a
so
smart comment. Go ahead, Rob.
yeah, so the question I have is in the download case, we have the ability to maybe download things from various sources, right? You have that same image copied in N registries upstream, then you can sort of in parallel pull those things into one place. So that I think is one case. When you do the pushing, you are expecting all of this to land in the exact same registry. So what I'm trying to understand is would the upload performance improve in such a case significantly or not?
So compare this to like how S3 does chunked uploads or multi-part uploads, right? So a single connection may not be enough to exhaust your upstream bandwidth. So in that case, you need to open multiple TCP connections to basically fill your pipe to whatever you're uploading to, right? So that's the idea here. And in case of downloads, you can still download from the same registry in parallel using HTTP range requests. So the download portion is probably fine. It's only the uploads. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, if there is some empirical data to support this, maybe then it would be a more compelling argument. But I'm open actually. At least personally, I'm open to this. I'm not objecting to this.
Yeah, I think reading through the comments, I do kind of share a lot of the concern about how you kind of mix old clients with new registries, new clients, old registries, kind of a thing, because there is going to be a lot of difference in behavior there. I mean, looking at sort of what's been done currently, I mean, Cloudflare currently does that where they speed up distributing LLMs by packaging a tool that splits a large LLM into multiple blobs on push. So the manifest is, they split their 10 gigabyte image into 2,500. I don't know. My math is gonna be way off, but whatever it is. And then same thing on poll, it merges it back together. So I think as a more generic solution, I'd be interested in what it looks like to have a new layer type that actually lets you kind of split and merge. Given that'd be like a net new functionality, it's probably have less breaking change, and it'll probably accomplish a similar thing with more. I don't know. I'd be interested in this, but I think the concerns over compatibility are probably going to be real.
So a new chunked media type and then have the client do the reassembly on their side. Guess that would follow similar with how we do assembling multiple layers together. It's just a different algorithm for how you assemble the different layers. You're assembling one big file.
Yes.
It also has the benefit of, I know there's some use cases that we've seen where it's basically like, people doing a database backup or something where it's essentially append-only data. If you chunk it and the first few chunks never change, you actually get some blob reuse that way.
Yeah, this is how like we're going back to block storage. So then this is how block storage works.
Are we doing a block storage layer type now?
I haven't looked at the implementation of like DM Verity. Is that block level?
Yeah,
I feel like some of our,
DM Verity is at the block level, yes.
yeah, I feel like some of our proposals are getting down that level. But we didn't get the block reuse. And so if you were able to do that chunked and get some of that reuse in there, that might kind of resurrect some of the advantages of OCI again. Yeah, we've got over in the OCI Slack for folks that are chatting over there. It's pretty lightly used, so if you throw up a new thread, people that are interested just kind of jump on the thread and follow along.
You mean in the general channel?
Yeah, right in the general channel, if you just make a new thread there, folks
Gotcha.
that want to chat about a thread are pretty good about it, and it's so low bandwidth that it doesn't really, you're not distracting anybody by just throwing it right in that channel.
Gotcha. All right.
But I think to Jeff's earlier point, we've had a lot of discussion around this, and like the out of order push was discussed before on one issue. But I feel like you're kind of going off on enough of a thought process there, and we've had enough discussion around this that it would probably be good to get this over into a GitHub issue somewhere. All right, anything more you'd like to chat about today? Another quiet group. And I didn't bring much, so this might be an early end of the day for us. End of the meeting, at least. You have to be in Europe for it to be the end of the day. All right, let's wrap this up. Let Sajay run off to his next meeting and circle back next week and have a good one, Noah.
Thank you.
Bye.